go back even further. This is John Ogilvy. It's map, obviously. I collect all maps. I love maps. Don't have this one. Love to have this one. The reason I'm showing you this particular one, which is John Ogilvy's, it's a map of the road from London to Land's End. This was just as revolutionary as Steve Jobs' screen and the iPhone. Why was it revolutionary? Because it had a huge insight. Maps until that point were, areas of land. It was London. It was Land's End. It was the UK. It was France. It was Brussels. The insight he had is, well, people actually, what do they do with the maps? Well, what they really do with the maps, in most parties, go from one place to another. So he said, well, screw this idea of creating a map. We'll create a pathway. We'll create strip maps. And so what he did is he plotted the course from London to Land's End. And not only did he plot the course, he put the distances between junctures. He put points of interest in there, right? So you would know where the next watering hole was, to get an ale, to feed your horse, to whatever. So this was the revolution. And then when you look back and you think, oh my gosh, horse and buggy, took John Ogilvy's map, put it on the seat next to him, happy as a clam, went from London to Land's End. Great. Well, what happened over the centuries? So we'll speed things up a bit. You got a roadster in the 60s, stopped, at the gas station, picked up a strip map. Not much different. Put it on the seat beside him, happy as a clam, got to know where the next diner was. Contemporary sedan. Okay, you can go to Google and you can print out a customized map and put it on the seat beside you. Really, this is evolutionary. This was the revolution. But suddenly, you could say, you know what? Don't want to go to Land's End. I want to turn left here. I want to adventure. I want to find out about things. It opened up things, and there weren't the constraints that there were before. And so, in every single vertical, you have to understand that there are evolutionary blocks, stepping stones, and there are revolutionary ones. This is where I started out in mobile. I've been mobile far too long. I ran the first cross-carrier short code campaign in North America. Text messaging. I ran in, 2002 or something with a big brand there. A few years later, in Rome, in the Vatican, there was Benedict was about to be announced as the next pope. Everybody's waiting, right? Here's a scene from outside the Vatican. And what do you see here in the corner? One sort of lonely Nokia flip phone, right? Over here. And what's this little flip phone doing? It's taking a picture. It's not taking a picture. It's a Nokia flip phone. It's texting home to mom to say, I'm going to be quickly late tonight, mom. Right? And then, a few years later, 8 to be exact, Francis came on the scene. Same square. A little bit different. Right? This is the revolution. This is the story I was telling in the beginning with that line. All these screens, and nobody's really there, right? Because actually they're just filming the screen and transmitting it to their circle of trust, right? Was I there? No, the screen looked good, And this is where we stand. That was our hotel and our guest, and now this is our hotel guest. And the device has changed from the little flip phone. But when you think about it, has it really changed? There are more of them, more sizes, more ubiquitous. But when you look at a Nokia, and this one's I picked up in Pakistan, this Nokia has 2 SIMs, dual SIM. This one. It has a chassis for another, but it's 1 SIM slot. This one allows you to text It allows you obviously to phone and voice communication. It allows you to sideload data, and in Pakistan it's done a lot. You go to the local sort of video store and sideload little video vignettes, and they use it for education a lot. This has a whole pile more power, right? Actually, this device, which is a little bit old, is 3,000 times faster than the first computer that sent the computer that sent the first rocket to the moon, right? 3,000 times faster. So fundamentally, this is a supercomputer in your pocket. But that really is the problem, is that when you really boil it down, what are people using these things to do? They're using it to build trust, to share things. Fundamentally, they're both communication devices. Things haven't changed so much. So, and it's $12. There's the difference. But, and then built on this supercomputer, and you know, obviously Steve Jobs did an amazing job in pushing the industry to a certain point. But then he said, okay, well, I own the industry, so I'm going to put a walled garden around that. I'm going to create content for my phone so I can sell my phone. And so he created an app store on the tail of his hardware device, and he said, look, I'm going to allow for this SDK to be out there so all these garage developers can develop stuff for my phone so that I can sell my phone with the justification that it comes with all this content that I didn't have to create, because all I did is create a great SDK. So you have all these developers around the world creating all this content, and you have Apple, and you know the first few years of advertising of Apple was the device and all these apps jumping out of the phone, right? Buy my phone, get all this content, right? So Apple's strategy was walled garden, here's an SDK built for us, we'll always have more content than the other guys, buy my phone. Because when Apple wakes up in the morning, they don't think about content. When Apple wakes up in the morning, they think about selling phones. That's how they make their money. They're a hardware manufacturer. So they created this app store, and then you guys went out, used their SDKs, and you created all these wonderful apps. That's great. And Steve Jobs and his team thanks you for that. And the problem is, over a period of time, the phone, which is the smartphone, turned into what I call a crackerjack container, right? Because it's smart. And what do you associate smart with? Smart Alec, sort of precocious kid next door. Smart is not necessarily a positive, description. It was a smartphone, but it's a smartphone that you showed over coffee at Starbucks and said, oh my gosh, look at this app I've got. It does this, it does that. Oh, I've got to download that. That's fantastic. And after a period of time, you got people sort of crawling through the caramelized popcorn to get to all these fun things at the bottom of the box. The bubble gum and the plastic ring and all the things that Crackerjack had, we sort of associate our phone with. And there's so much stuff that we download and we didn't use. Really, people use 5 to 6 apps on their phone. The rest are, phone top roadkill, right? They get lost in a folder somewhere and trashed eventually. So we have this Crackerjack mentality with the phone. But the phone obviously is so much more. And it has all this stuff which allows it to communicate in a very human way with its environment. That's why it was so amazing, right? It was a prosthetic, it was an extension of ourselves, right? And the most important thing is it allowed us to communicate with networks around us. So it became a sort of extension of ourselves and allowed us to talk to things around us, other networks. And then there's this guy called John Chambers, who's the CEO of Cisco. And earlier this year at CES, John Chambers stood up and said there's this new thing that's about to hit, and it's called the Internet of Everything. And not the Internet of Things, or as I like to call it, the Internet of Stuff. He called it the Internet of Everything. And why did he call it the Internet of Everything? Because he said, in very grandiose gestures, that all these things, these networks around us, these things that our phone can associate and talk to, these sensors that we're going to be talking about in a minute, they need to be woven together, and there needs to be software to enable us to talk to these things that are appearing around us that we can control. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And he said this industry that's about to explode is a $19 trillion opportunity. So let's talk about the $19 trillion opportunity. So we talked about the first wave of mobility, which was the mobile phone, the crackerjack container, and now we're going to talk about the next revolution in mobility, which is not the smartphone. It's the intelligent server. And what we're moving to is, have I got my phone? The phone less of it as a crackerjack container and more as something which is in my pocket that I don't really have to take out, which basically is an extension of my profile and who I am, and it navigates intelligently so that I'm not nose to screen downloading the coolest little app and jumping onto my phone every few minutes, but somehow I now become connected through my device. And we'll talk about that. So, well, the first phase of this was wearables, right? So what are wearables? They basically allow you to create an environment where you can not necessarily talk directly, to the carrier or to the Wi-Fi, but you can talk to your phone in a more convenient manner. So, watches that Fred's and Dick Tracy have always advocated, by the way, and other folk all around the world into the Galactica. And so this whole idea of using other devices to communicate is obviously something that's part of pop culture, nothing new. And so when we came out with this pretty much ugly device here, the Gear One, we knew that something was happening, that peripherals, wearables were going to be part of the way that we navigate. It made sense. And then you had wearables like this, like glasses, right? And it's cute, and there are going to be sort of ergonomically sound ways of accessing data, no question. I guess you have to really question why there aren't lines around the block for these products yet. Right? They don't thrill, they don't delight, they amuse, they interest. But the reason is that they haven't really cracked it yet. This is all Bill Gates super cool, right? And case in point, these things, right? If you actually research the whole idea of having data peripherally in your line of vision, it doesn't make too much sense, because if you look at studies, the interaction between memory, attention, and eye movement, you cannot look at somebody and think. Do you know that? Try it after this session. Go and look at somebody in the eye and think. You'll always have to look away. You have to think of something that is not, like 1 + 1. If somebody asks you a question, you have to give it some thought. You look away. Well, if you're looking away, what's the point of having it in your peripheral vision? If you're looking away, you may as well be looking at another screen or at another device, another wearable. So I'm not a fan of glass specifically, but obviously these things will evolve, and they're far smarter people than I who are working on the stuff. Absolutely, and that's the first phase. Then there's the audio jack. So if the phone doesn't have the capability to do things, we're just going to plug something into the audio jack, and we're going to create an experience beyond the phone. So that's, again, the first phase of going beyond the phone, right? And so here, obviously, we know Square and other peripherals that can be plugged into the jack to create sort of a data relationship and certain physicality that the phone doesn't present. And there are tons of examples of that here. You can use this to shove into your hot turkey to see if it's cooked, right? And then after dinner and after all those bottles of wine, you may need this to make sure that you can drive home. If you had too many bottles of wine, you may need this. And then if it was a really draconian evening, you may need this. But these are all things that you can plug into your phone to heighten the functionality of the phone, right, through the audio jack. But let's go beyond the audio jack, right, because that's not the $19 trillion business, right? The $19 trillion business is connecting things, not only to your phone, although I believe the phone is going to be central in that communication channel. It's your car, it's your pets, your appliances, your lights, your cameras, your home, your objects around you, your workspace, in an intelligent way. So let's talk about that for a minute. So we have over 10 billion connected objects in the world today. I don't know where they come up with that number, but it's a big number. They say, the pundits, that they're going to be, by 2020, 50 billion connected things. The bottom line is there are a lot of connected things, and there are going to be a lot more connected things. And when I talk about connected things, everything ultimately should be connected, because everything should be able to talk to you in some way, to say, hey, my bottle is cool or it's not cool. It needs to be put back in the refrigerator. The refrigerator should know that I'm putting the bottle back in the refrigerator, so it can tell me when I'm out of bottles. You know, there should be a way that these inanimate objects should be able to talk to us. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. And so that's what these sensors will do. And so you'll have sensors for your plants, because your plants should be able to tell you when they need to be watered, correct? I mean, it's really bizarre that we have to shove our finger into the soil every now and again to find out if it's too dry, right? And our kids should be able to tell us when they need to be changed. They try, and they cry, and we say, what's wrong with Sally? She's crying. And we think, oh, do you think she needs to be changed? Well, I mean, that's crazy. That's almost as crazy as putting your finger into the plant. So here, you can have your kid tweet to you when they need to be changed, right? And then, of course, Nest. Nest is a profound sort of demarcation in the Internet of Everything, because Google bought it for a whole pile of cash. So Nest is basically, they have two products, a thermostat and a smoke detector. And these units you can put into your house, you can wire them up to your Wi-Fi, and you can control them with your phone. They are an object now in the Internet of everything. And so now when you come home, it can change the temperature based on a number of variables, including the fact that you just walk in the room, right? Which makes a whole pile of sense. I mean, you go into your room, which I'm sure you do after the session, and your room will either be too hot or too cold, and you'll have to adjust the heating or open the window or do something. That just doesn't make any sense, right? And then there are things that are the future of the Internet of Everything, like this bra. So this bra is a built-in EKG, right? It's actually a patent by Microsoft. And what it basically is you can calibrate the EKG to send essentially an alert to your phone when you have a certain emotional state. And what you do is you calibrate it based on eating. And so it can tell you when you're about to have a snack attack. Makes sense to me. So, and then there are things like these basketballs, right? So this basketball, or any basketball, has always known that your game needed a little bit of work, right? It knew that, that you needed to practice a little bit more, right? But it never could tell you. Now, with this, it can actually tell you everything about your game. It can tell your coach everything about your game. And that's what things need to do. Because things know a whole pile more about you than you know about you. And everything should be animate. Everything should have a voice. And what the Internet of Everything does is it gives everything a voice. And so you get wonderful examples like this, and this is back in 2001 in India, where this gentleman, Mr. Sharma, developed a shoe which had sensors in it to allow people who were visually impaired to walk. And he adapted this device, and he put it into a prototype. And then more recently, and actually just this spring, it's coming out with this. And basically you can put it into any shoe, and it talks to your phone through Bluetooth. And what it does is it aligns your walking experience with your map on your phone. And so you can tell your map on your phone that I want to go to, you know, a restaurant down in the old city. It knows where your location is, and it now transmits that data to your shoe. So your shoe vibrates on the left or the right, depending on where it wants you to turn. Not only that, it has a camera or sort of visual transmitter in the front that will tell you if there's an obstacle to your way. For example, a pothole or the construction you have on this road today. That's amazing. So suddenly, your shoe becomes a sensor. It becomes an intelligent device that's telling you things, just like the basketball did. And it can tell you when you need to turn, because it should be able to. Your phone knows where you are. Why can't your shoe direct you accordingly? No reason. And this one, oh my gosh, you have dishwashers, you have washing machines, and then you have to go down to the basement and you have to turn a knob. Yeah? And then you go upstairs and you go, oh, did I put the heat cycle on? And you have to go down to the basement and you have to switch the little thing up or down, or maybe you have to switch it over. Crazy! We call that knobology, by the way. And it's a term, knobology. It's the art of making things work and in an easy ergonomic fashion. And we suck at knobology, right? We have all these gadgets and knobs. We've got a little bit better over the century, but generally we still have too many knobs in our lives. And why can't you talk to your washing machine? Why can't you say, hey dude, I'm going out, please put on the cycle at 10, and oops, oh, I forgot to tell you, put it on hot. Or maybe it says, oops, you forgot to tell me, do you want the hot cycle or cold cycle? Why can't you talk to your washing machine? No reason. And so you have whole industry of smart homes that we'll talk about a little bit. This is LG, you have Samsung with their smart homes, and recently, this past week, Apple announced their move into the home with HomeKit. Amazon is a prototype, it's called Dash. Again, you carry it, it works as a peripheral to your phone. It allows you to do a whole pile of things like scan your pantry, right? So you can scan your pantry to create your shopping list. If you can't scan something, you may want to just talk into it, and it creates a shopping list, and bam! You can shop. And guess where you're shopping? On Amazon, obviously. And so here is a way of not only addressing the Internet of Everything, but owning the Internet of Everything. And that's where you guys need to go. You need to say, hey, how can I get my hotels to speak intelligently so that I can own a relationship with my customer, so I can get them to do more stuff, sell them more stuff, delight them, and get them to come back, right? And so you can put these things anywhere, right? You can put them in your bags, sensors. You can, attach them to really anything that moves, and it will track it. You can create networks of sensors so that even if that sensor wasn't in range of your particular device, it could be in range of somebody else's device, and through the network, it will tell you that your bag is at the station or not. You could put it on your kids' shoes to track them, right? And even before they have shoes, you can track that. And you can put them, remember, I don't know if you have kids, I have kids, you put the little, you put I'm missing it, the little thingamabob by the bed, the crib, to the monitor, the baby monitor. And what did you hear? Do you remember? It was crazy. It was bad quality. You didn't know what was going on upstairs. Oh my gosh, something happened. You run upstairs and the baby's sleeping. Everything's fine. Here, you have something on the baby's leg that allows you to know exactly what's going on Is the baby on its belly? Is the baby on its back? How many times has it turned in the last hour? You know, everything about your baby you can track, not only when you're in the house, but when you're at work. So things can talk. Even a baby who hasn't developed speech can talk to you. And your dog can do the same thing. Right? This is called whisper, and you can attach it to your dog, and your dog can communicate its location to you. You have things that you can put into your eyes that measure your glucose level, that transmits that, again, to your phone. Makes a whole pile of sense. So now your eyes can talk to you, your blood sugar can talk to you, and medically, it's a revolution. This is an ultrasound. Now, an ultrasound unit costs between $30,000 and $50,000. It is not very mobile. So with a device like this, you can plug it into your phone. It has to be a Windows phone, because Windows phones are the only ones that can transmit the data that fast. Maybe the other guys will catch up at some point, but you can take this Windows phone out into the field, into a rural village in Africa, and you can give somebody an ultrasound, and that ultrasound image can be transmitted through that phone to Stanford University or some other place of higher knowledge and learning, and you can get a diagnosis on an individual. That is profound. And so the idea of things talking in the medical space is huge. Here you can, a doctor can monitor how many pills you've taken, how many times you've opened your bottle. You can put glucose patches everywhere, not just into your eyes. You can have intelligent fibers in your clothes that tell you about your health, monitor your health. All that data, like tattoo skin patches or toilet urine analysis, all can be transmitted to your doctor remotely through your phone. Amazing. And even if you smoke, your lighter can tell you how many times you struck up today. Again, helping you monitor your smoking and hopefully reduce your smoking in this case. I'm working on an initiative for e-cigarettes where we're putting a little transmitter beacon into the e-cigarettes. Every time you inhale, it transmits your location to the phone and the fact that you've taken inhalation. So one, it could do something like this, but also from a medical perspective, it can monitor, because obviously with e-cigarettes, you don't just have to be smoking nicotine. So, and you can put it on your products. Now, granted, a banana does tell you when it is ripe. In a very natural way. But generally, it is kind of interesting that you could put patches on fruit, and it can tell you whether it's the right time to buy this or not. This is an edible sensor. And then you can actually put it on yourself, right? And so epidermal tattoos are out there. There are a lot of patents on them. This is a Nokia patent. This is a patent for a tattoo where the tattoo actually becomes an audio transmitter to your phone. So now, instead of saying, "Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Just 2 seconds," you know, yes, right? You can now always be on. Right? So. And then, of course, most importantly, bringing couples together all around the world. This is a remote vibrator, right? So you can control your relationship long distance. Right? So.